She was once chastised, even ridiculed, and dismissed as aggressive, merely for asking a direct, reasonable question. Now that same woman stands as the first ever female chief of police in her major metropolitan city, blazing a trail through centuries of silence and deferential submission. And if you think that's a simple rise through the ranks, you'll need to buckle up for a story steeped in quiet courage, simmering resistance, institutional inertia, and the kind of unexpected wins that reshape history, because the way she got there could have come straight out of a novel full of unexpected allies, betrayals cut deep, and a single defining moment that turned her question from perceived hostility into the spark of a movement. So lean in, because here's how it all began. She was known in precinct circles as quiet, efficient, polite, never attention-seeking, reserved behind her captain's desk where she handled paperwork and personnel files, an immigrant's daughter with 2 degrees. And a few commendations, but no big roles, never seen at press briefings or parades. That all changed one Tuesday morning when she walked into a tightly controlled public hearing on police community relations hosted by City Council. Microphone live, cameras rolling, and simply asked, "Why are we disregarding neighborhoods of color when drawing our beat maps?" It was such a normal question, rooted in fairness and fact, but the room froze, council members' faces went blank, the city's police oversight board shuffled papers, and reporters leaned forward like it was theater. Then the backlash began. Social media trolls mocked her as aggressive Karen, local pundits on the radio extolled her audacity as reckless, even dangerous, and within the department whispers grew that she was trouble, too blunt, too bold, not a team player, crossing boundaries. But she smiled when told and didn't back down, because she had watched those maps for years, suspected their gerrymandered bias, had seen officers sent into communities with no understanding or empathy, and was fed up with top brass ignoring the fractures. That single question forced a review of the maps, but only after months of internal pressure and political theater. Yet for her the battle was never maps, it was fairness, legitimacy, trust, and suddenly she was being tapped for a new role. Lieutenant in community outreach, limited scope, no prestige, a hidden demotion in backyard guise. So she packed her notes and maps and went in, determined to prove that her so-called aggression was just sharp focus guided by empathy. She spent nights poring over arrest data with interns, redesigning shareable infographics showing underpoliced areas overlapped with underserviced ones, met with pastors, storefront owners, the local PTA, creating small trust circles and skating rinks and church cafeterias, quietly building the groundwork for accountability. But headquarters dismissed her pop-up churches and smoothie stand meetings as distraction, and budget cuts left her with half a coordinator and no official mandate. Still she pressed on, converting recycled supplies into newsletters, funding rides to meetings with club bake sale proceeds, fusing grassroots goodwill with hard data, and gradually, neighborhood captains began to call her directly. No protocols, no intermediaries. When issues arose, she listened. Then one night, after a car crash in a poor neighborhood, a trapped infant needed rescue and paramedics were slow. She heard the first engines before the district unit did, and she drove herself in, crawling through rain to comfort a family and relay details to incoming teams, saving critical minutes. A bystander took video, seen millions of times the next day, of an officer in plain clothes checking her pulse, looking to her for answers because they knew she knew, because they trusted her. Internal investigators buzzed, but when the chief watched the footage she paused, nodded, then greenlit the entire district to adopt her protocols for instant neighborhood first response. Headlines reversed. Now she was a rising star, aggressive transformed into assertive, fearless, necessary. Promotions followed. Captain of Community Affairs, then Deputy Chief over Reform Initiatives, where she scrapped outdated pursuit policies, brought in after-action reviews, lobbied for civilian oversight structures, and all the while former critics called her bold or brash. Then respectful, always respectful when her data spoke, her results shone. Years passed, her team grew, small neighborhoods became nodes of trust, crime rates shifted. But so did the culture. With town hall sessions, cops wore their body cams in conversations, not conflict, tempers cooled, measured language replaced trigger reflex, and the city's mayor took note. Media features followed, showing her childhood photos. Daughter of immigrant parents waiting at bus stops, lunch money tucked under mom's scarf, and comparisons to abolitionist leaders spread. Then came the announcement. After the sudden retirement of the longtime police chief, the city would appoint her as interim chief of police. Council chambers were packed, cameras zoomed, pundits waited for backlash, Yet the confirmation vote was unanimous, and when she stood at the podium the next day, clad in crisp uniform, badge gleaming, she began not with her own story but with one partial line: "I once was called aggressive for asking a difficult question." And the room broke into applause, heads nodding, history being rewritten. She paused, looked out across the auditorium at reporters, veterans in crisp blues, civilians leaning on balconies, and said softly, "I was just asking for all of us," and left it there, the weight of truth visible. City Hall erupted. Calls flooded in, community groups praised her, unions cautiously optimistic, opposition speechless, and in that moment everything changed. But as the cameras faded, her eyes flicked to her lieutenant waiting off to the side, phone vibrating with a message that read only, "It's happening," and her heart skipped, because she knew the next storm was on its way, bigger, and would test the very essence of her leadership. The question that made her emerged as a leader would now define her leadership in conflict. And if you think this was her triumph, well, you'll understand soon enough what comes next. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. She stood behind the podium that day, badge gleaming, eyes steady, body exuding quiet command. Thunderous applause followed her simple declaration: "I was just asking for all of us." And right then, it felt like every whisper of "too bold" or "too aggressive" had been transformed into the engine of change. But few knew that as the ceremony's final note faded, a message slid into her hand, unmarked envelope heavy with consequence, inside: "Tonight, the precinct house. Midnight." No signature, no sender. Her smile tightened just a fraction. Off camera, her aide's phone glowed ominously. An anonymous tip: someone inside was planning sabotage. She excused herself under the guise of adjusting files, heartbeat synced with the echo of the auditorium's emptying seats, and in the quiet corridor felt the enormity of what lay ahead. A deeper leak, a betrayal that could shatter everything she had built. The interim tag had been stripped, and the city was rallying behind her. But now, more than public trust, she faced a threat that cut close to home. Someone in her inner circle, emboldened, plotting to destroy the fragile alliance she had nurtured. As the interview footage looped on screens behind her, voices recounted her triumph through the streets, and mothers, officers, community leaders cheered. But upstairs, someone was watching, calculating. The envelope's words were iced shadows. Could she trace the conspiracy to her own mentors, to a faction threatened by reform? She closed her hand over the envelope, took a steady breath, and with a single glance back at the town hall's empty chamber, her victory stage turned silent battlefield, she walked toward the vehicles waiting outside, knowing that tomorrow's precinct reality could flip everything on its head. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. She stepped into the hushed precinct basement just as the clock struck midnight. The scent of cold concrete and stale coffee clung to the air, droves of files stacked like silent sentinels in the dim glow of fluorescent lights. Every stride echoed, her boots alerting something in the darkness. She knew that envelope's message wasn't an idle threat. It was a siren. She flicked on the only working overhead light. Dust motes danced in the yellow haze. The sergeant's desk lay abandoned, folders open as though the night's work was paused mid-thought. Then she saw it, a live feed monitor perched at the edge of the desk. A shaky camera angle showed the main floor, the heart of the precinct where secure evidence lockers stood, and someone now waltzed freely, rifling through drawers. That someone she recognized. It wasn't a rebel few had expected. It was her mentor, the captain who'd once tutored her in precise policing and quiet leadership. His back faced the camera. She closed the door softly, heart hammering. Betrayal from someone she trusted most. Her radio crackled, static, then a familiar voice. "Chief? Did you get my text?" She stiffened, mind racing. That second message on her phone had read, "Don't trust them." She didn't know if her aide was warning her about the vault breach, or the mentor inside. She reached into her pocket, thumb hovering over a reply. She turned, silence again, but the shadows felt alive. Then the mentor's voice slammed through the silence, low and urgent. "If you keep going, we both fall. You taught me everything I know about loyalty. Remember that." He didn't turn around. Did he regret this? Or was that the trap snapping closed? Before she could respond, alarms shrieked, piercing, ear-splitting, and floodlights bathed the corridor in harsh white. She grabbed the mentor's arm, pivoted, and ran. Doors slammed. Footsteps chased them. In that chaotic scramble, she glimpsed uniforms racing in her direction. Are they with her or after her? As they burst through a security door, the world spilled back into light. The main lobby. Reporters were milling, expecting her to arrive post-victory. Flash bulbs captured them running, still side by side, her mentor and her momentarily united. But his expression said it all. He was torn. And the alarms? Those alarms meant one thing. Evidence was being corrupted upstairs as they fled. Mid-stride, someone blocked the exit. A detective from Internal Affairs, badge glinting, eyes cold. He raised a voice recorder. Chief, or Captain, depending on who's still standing. Care to explain why your mentor was in the evidence room at midnight? Silence choked the hall. She opened her mouth, heart pounding, but her mentor's hand on her shoulder steadied her. His eyes begged, trust me. She nodded faintly. He began, because what they're about to do, he glanced at the camera gang shoved near the doorway, is rewrite what justice looks like, and I've got to stop it. The crowd surged closer. Flashing red and blue light seeped through glass doors. She lifted her chin and faced them, camera lights reflecting on her badge. Next to her, her mentor, once trusted teacher, now suspected accomplice, leaned forward and whispered just before the cameras rolled. And at that moment, she knew the war had truly begun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The lobby's glare swallowed them as she stood clutching her mentor's arm, badge glinting beneath cold fluorescent lights. Reporters shouted names, camera shutters clamored, but internal logic and urgency drowned out the chaos. The detective from Internal Affairs pressed a recorder toward her, voice low but unwavering. Chief, or Captain, will you answer why your mentor was rifling through evidence at midnight? She inhaled quietly, the weight of centuries-old policing expectations on her shoulders. The mentor's silent glance, equal parts apology and warning, anchored her. In that suspended heartbeat, she recognized betrayal's real shape, not a sin of omission but a desperate act to expose deeper rot. Swallowing her instinct to shield him, she squared her shoulders and began with measured calm. He's not here to protect evidence. He's here to expose what's being doled out as justice. Flashbulbs flickered. Confusion rippled through the press pit. The Internal Affairs detective's jaw clenched. The mentor stepped forward, voice low, directing his confession to the silent room. There's a covert operation underway. Evidence is being deliberately suppressed. Innocent people are being framed. This isn't justice, it's manipulation. A beat of disbelief. Reds and blues washed through the glass, the hum of squad cars outside blending with witness whispers. She glanced up at the ceiling, words of her oath echoing in her mind. Chief, the Internal Affairs detective leaned in, that's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? She met his gaze, calm and resolute. Yes. But the proof is inside that evidence room, now compromised. Someone high up is orchestrating it. We need that footage. Now. The detective's fingers hovered near his radio. Silence stretched before he turned slowly and barked into the comm system. Secure the building. No one exits. Panic pulsed outward from within the precinct. Officers surged in, logging the names of reporters and staff exiting. Commands echoed, lock the evidence room doors. Fire alarm sirens wailed, authoritative voices gave way to confusion. She turned back to the mentor, her guide, her betrayer, her ally. We need to clear this. Now, if we lose that video, we lose our city. He nodded, sweat beading at his temple. Then follow me, but trust no one. They sprinted toward the back stairwell. The hallway seemed endless, voices chasing them, doors slamming. Just as they reached the bottom, a squad of uniformed officers stood waiting, their expressions blank, unseeing. She raised her hands, voice unwavering. I'm the chief of police. Open this door. No response. Her mentor pulled her to the side, whispering, these are the ones enforcing the cover-up. A light flickered down the corridor, a figure emerging. Her breath caught. It was the old chief, retired but powerful, notorious for suppressing scandals under the guise of departmental loyalty. He held a remote, calmly pressing a button. Lights swung off. Silence swallowed them. Footsteps approached, reflecting on the cement. Before she could steel herself, a hand clasped her shoulder. And in that freezing moment, she realized who really held the power, and her last anchor of trust shattered. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Darkness enveloped the corridor as the old chief's hand grasped her shoulder. She froze, instinct and suspicion flaring. The light remained off, the only sound their ragged breathing. A wavering whisper cut through the gloom. "It's me." She exhaled. Recognition tumbled through her. It was her own trusted aide, the one sent to check on her earlier. The aide had orchestrated the seemingly ominous presence, not to betray but to shield her. Pulling her aside, they choked out, "You need the truth. It isn't just evidence being tampered with. The new mayor's office is behind it. They've inhibited certain prosecutions for political leverage." Her mind raced. The mayor she had sided with, the one who praised her reform, could be the very force undermining justice. It explained the sudden pushback, the general counsel's silence, and the coded messages from her mentor. A manipulation machine had been installed, using the department as a pawn. Behind them, the old chief emerged from shadow, face drawn. He said quietly, "I tried to stop it but I couldn't alone. They named me interim head to control the narrative. It cost me more than pride." She realized how close she'd come to being complicit by ignorance, and how vital her next choice would be. Forgiveness mingled with rage, regret with resolve. Sirens approached, real this time. Backup was arriving, some loyal, others unsure. News crews flooded the lobby. She stepped forward, voice steady. "People of this city, tonight we faced a test. A test of truth, loyalty, and leadership. I was called aggressive once for asking a simple question. Now I stand here asking again, who defines justice when power conceals it?" Her aide stepped beside her. The old chief bowed his head as reporters stared, phones poised. "Tomorrow," she continued, "we will confront those in power who believe loyalty means silence. I will stand with transparent justice, even if it costs me everything." The lights flickered back on. Faces mirrored shock, defiance, alarm. The aide placed a folder in her hand, detailed records of manipulated evidence decisions, signed by high-ranking officials. She opened it, scanned, heart steel tight. This was the final confrontation she'd prepared for. As she ascended the steps of the precinct, flanked by officers and cameras, she locked eyes with the mayor's convoy pulling away across the street. Her final statement before the glowing red exit sign and TV lights. "This city deserves its truth. And tonight we begin reclaiming it." She nodded, movement fluid, determined, not just the chief, but the guardian. And behind her, the hand of her aide still rested, steady and true. True leadership demands courage to confront betrayal, even when it comes from within, an unwavering commitment to justice regardless of personal cost. Trust, once broken, must be rebuilt through transparency, accountability, and moral clarity. Only then can genuine reform take root and communities truly flourish. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.